Sorry about that.
Special permit. Ask you a question before we start.
Yes.
When is the discussion of the one church?
No, we're making a special. We have to make a public hearing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
That's why it says on the work session.
Oh, well, actually, because they're here. They can talk about it.
Just asking. I can think anything. Am I reading this right? Take a look at this. This is on that solar panels.
All right. We're starting our meeting.
Where? They gave it. You just can't.
Oh, that one. Perfect. Thank you.
We have two items on the agenda. The VA Visa 110 Luciani Street, that's being set up for a public hearing, correct?
You're receiving it, Mr. Rizzo and his attorney are here receiving.
Great. So
It's my understanding that you just...
that would be great. That would be great, actually, if you want to talk about it a little bit, because we do actually, just for a little background to the commission. So the neighbors had asked a while ago if they could talk at our meeting tonight about this project. I suggested that they call Chris,
I have a problem with
of
that.
course. I understand. Hear me out, and then I'll let you
Okay.
speak. How's that? So I just want to fill everybody in. Okay. So talk to Chris, and then they could come and talk to us. After that, then became apparent that you had to come before us with a new application because it's running out. Okay, so when we had told them they could come and talk, okay, so just so you understand
That's what I thought
what the
happened.
parameters are. Okay, so,
Yeah.
but now I'll let you speak. How's that?
For the record, I'm attorney Robert Ostovich, representing the applicant.
Okay, and you filled out, you put your name in there, sir?
So I will.
Okay, thank you.
And that was one of the concerns I had, because looking at your agenda, as you know, all information must be taken at the time of the public hearing, and that you can't have outside information provided to you, which would taint your record, but that's been taken care of from what I believe you've said, that they will not.
Well, I just explained the situation, but then I'm going to try to ask questions over here to the left and see what their suggestion is. I think you're right, probably. I think you're right, by the way. But
The other thing that just point of order, this is kind of a hybrid as I read your regulation. My client had a permit, it expired last week, I believe, the 3rd or whatever.
that's correct.
So we're requested to submit a new application. It's kind of almost a modification of the old application, but your commission is treating it as a new application. The information that was submitted at the time of the expired application, will you be just accepting that, or do you want us to restate everything for the record? In other words, engineering calculations on the drainage, etc. Will you be just incorporating the last hearing's information into this hearing, or do you want us to start from scratch?
Okay, I'll defer to what Terry says, but I'm assuming we're just going to continue. We're not going starting from square one.
The only
I know
comment
that
I
there's
might
a-
add is that you have it changed to the extent that it's changed.
Yeah, we will.
I think some
address
drainage
that.
calculations
Right.
will change.
Right, I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Anything new, obviously, we have to get. I mean, you bring up drainage calculations. That's one of the things you are going to be bringing.
If
to
that's
us.
changed. Again, That's fine. It's, just so I know procedurally when we hit the public hearing.
Typically, what they can just ask you to do is to incorporate the record of the prior application into this hearing record. And that, by default, then takes everything from that old record and brings it into this new record.
Okay.
That's exactly what we're intending to do.
So, on the application, they're doing some changes. Is this something that needs to go back to Bob Criscola?
Yes.
And is that something that we have to wait for the public hearing, or can we send that now?
You typically have sent it in advance of the public
Okay,
hearing, so that
great.
tries to get ironed out. But it was my understanding that there were going to be some geotechnical information provided.
Geotech engineer was at the site today. And he's preparing a report which we'll submit prior to the public hearing so that your engineer can have a chance to review it.
So, okay. So, I'm a little torn on, I mean, I get it. I think that we probably should have everybody wait and talk when the application's up here at a public hearing, as opposed to having everybody talk tonight. Do you have an opinion on that? I mean, if they're,
It is reversible error with the courts if you consider outside the public hearing any information. And from my standpoint and their standpoint, I would want to have, and your standpoint, I would want to have reversible error by allowing them to speak outside the public hearing.
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah.
I think another thing to consider is that if all the information from the applicant was in and reviewed by your reviewing engineer, would this matter be taken up by the commission on their next regular meeting, or would you be holding in, you can hear it as soon as 2 weeks from today? So it would be up to the commission to schedule that.
Well, that's probably not great, but yeah, there's a lot of things between now and then. But that all that stuff isn't in yet anyway. So it's kind of moot.
Is there any estimate of what?
There's a lot of things going on between now and our next. This is a tough month. There's a lot of holidays and
Yeah.
things
And
like that.
I'm not so sure how fast the geotech's going to have his report.
Yeah,
And then
so-
your engineer has to
Right.
review it.
There's no sense to hear it until it's been reviewed by the.
Yeah, I mean, it would just necessitate a continuance if in fact we didn't have it. So, you know, I don't know if you hold the public hearings on the dates of your regularly scheduled meetings.
Well, it
Would be a
depends.
month from now.
We're not overly consistent, but that's what we try to do. It depends on how much stuff is on the agenda, and I think that we can probably do it for next month's meeting. But that means that all your stuff has to be in, has to go to Bob Criscola. We technically should check with Bob Criscola to make sure he can actually get it.
Yeah.
So it would be. So unless anybody has any objections, I think we should just schedule it for the next month's meeting, but plan accordingly. So it would be.
Yeah, I think most of
and to
our
be honest
stuff-
with you, if it can't, assume that if you're telling me it can be done, I'm going to plan that it can be done. If it can't, then
I
assume
mean,
it's
if
not going to
we're
be for
gonna-
another month.
If we're going to incorporate the previous materials that were submitted and only address the changes in material necessary for that, I see no problem that we can have that in shortly. I have no control over the geotech, but I understand you should have to report to us within a week that you can give your engineer plenty of
How
time.
much time do you think, Bob?
It's on his workload, but we'll ask him to accommodate. Do you also want to invite him to your next meeting when this is going to be heard?
I'm assuming that if he's doing a report, he should come to present his report, absolutely. Okay, so I guess we're going to schedule the public hearing on the 5th of October. Yes. Yeah, it's September, isn't it?
I won't be here, but we have plenty of others.
October 5th.
October 5th.
So, first Monday.
It's the first one.
So is there nothing going on at the site now?
Everything stopped, I assume, at the site, correct?
Excuse
There's
me?
nothing going on at the site.
At this point?
Yeah.
No.
No, it's not. They can't do anything
There's
else.
no intention of having anything go on, so that you've got.
Well, no,
this
the
large
permit
audience.
has expired.
That's right, they can't.
And so,
Okay.
Physically, they could, and I just wanted the applicant's attorney to be on record.
And I was agreeing with you.
now, we did have the geotech down on site today, looking at the site. Of course, that type of activity, yes. And if your zoning enforcement officer sees some problems down there and wants us to correct, then we would be on site. But other than that, no.
Okay, so.
I'll be here.
Could you use your microphone, please?
We could do that. Okay. So there's 5 if you can't get out. 2.
If Buddy can be here and just reviews the tapes.
Oh, and
he's
there-
good.
there's Buddy, right?
But there's
Right.
nothing to review.
So Stephen is also available.
Right.
Is.
Yes.
Yeah, right. So it's 5.
Right, right.
So I don't know about Buddy,
Buddy was not able to attend this evening, but he didn't say that.
but there's no reason
he-
for him. Okay, so I think it'll be regular, it's fine. Okay.
Hey, Jeff. Real quick. He's going to have to return to the site because he's got soil erosion, and he's responsible for that site and the condition of the site. So he will be returning to the site as needed to inspect and to correct and to modify the soil erosion as necessary.
That's
I
correct.
just want to make that clear. So he will be back.
That's very clear. Is that very clear?
I'm listening to you. I don't know who that gentleman is, and it appears he's speaking on the record, which, again, I don't think anything should be said on the record outside the public hearing. But Terry says we need to go back on site.
Well,
We'll
I
be
mean,
there.
and with all due respect, he's not actually talking about your application at all. He's actually just talking about something that has to, he was really talking to the building inspector and just letting us know what he's saying. So it's not on the application at all, so.
Could you reassure the commission then, sir, that while you're waiting for this information to come in and the public hearing to commence, that your client will maintain the existing sediment and soil erosion control procedures at the site?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's a requirement.
Thank you.
You know, this is the first I heard that there's any problems going there.
Okay. And Terry, you're overseeing this, obviously.
Yes.
Okay. All right, very good.
Now, the last question, maybe I'm unclear. Are you going to allow the people to talk tonight under your work session? No. So there's no necessity for us to stay around or the people.
We always like a crowd, but did you sign in?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
All
So,
right.
no, we're not gonna,
Thank you.
that's not gonna happen. Thank you. And we'll look forward to seeing you next month. But it's really important that you get that stuff over to
Yeah, I think most of the
get us
stuff,
Chris Cola so that everyone's ready to go.
I
next
believe
month.
most of the stuff is in, our engineering stuff is in, the plans are in, it's just the geotax report.
Okay.
I think it's the primary.
Okay, cool. All right, thank you. The next item on our agenda is the Town of Woodbridge 85 Acorn Hill Road. The general statute requires an 824 referral regarding the installation of a solar panel array at the Woodbridge Cap landfill. But before we go to that, so everybody doesn't have to sit here all night unless you love us. So, I think everybody probably understands what's going on here. We're not going to be able to let the neighborhood come and talk to the commission about this application because there's an application and there's a public hearing. When we suggested that that was a good idea to come before us, that was before we knew that there was going to be an application. So Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, Roslyn, I'll take your question, but be careful because you don't want to taint us.
You can't have public comment.
No. I'm sorry.
When is the next meeting?
Well, the public hearing is scheduled for next month
October.
of October.
As
So,
long as it's in October, that would be fine. Thank you.
October 5th. What did I say? I just said October.
You said October.
Okay, okay. Okay.
What is it?
Nope, October 5th. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks for holding back. Okay, so now we're back to the Town of Woodbridge, 85 Acorn Hill Road. General Statutes 824 referral regarding the installation of a solar panel. So we just have to,
Am I misreading this, or is this the size of like 2 or 3 football fields?
well, it is a landfill.
4.17 acres.
Huh?
4.17 acres.
Worth of panel that's going to be,
Correct.
that's going to be put up.
Over the old landfill.
And the landfill is all just natural, correct? It's not paved over or anything?
There's nothing occupying.
Currently mowed.
Yeah, and so this is going to be 4-point-something acres, and this is an impervious surface, correct?
Well,
The
it is-
panels,
No.
It's a non-penetration ground mount. It's basically a metal rack that they put on the ground, and they use a weight to hold it down, so nothing penetrates the capped fill.
He's actually, I think, talking about water drainage. What happens when
I'm
water comes
looking at
down?
water drainage.
When water comes down on 4 acres of panels, where does the water
What
go?
it
It's not one panel, it's a bunch of panels, and it falls in between the panels and into the same earth that's there.
Have you been up to the...
Yeah, Jason, but still a certain.
I feel like I should be getting paid by the JC. All I do is talk about those solar panels, but they do let the water through because when you go get your car, you think it's dry and it's not. So the water goes through.
This is slightly larger, it seems, by the wattage than the JCC. The JCC is 3,901 panels and 1,200 amps of DC power.
And what's this?
It seems to be 2,000 amps.
Is this smaller?
No, this is larger.
This is bigger.
Yeah.
This is huge.
It's huge.
So this is going to be directly on the ground.
Correct.
As opposed to,
I don't anticipate it to be taller than 4 feet tall.
Well, I don't know about this one. I will tell you that anytime I see any of these things sitting on the ground, the high end is well over 4 feet.
It
Could
may
be
tip
6
up
to
that
7,
high. I
actually.
mean, the structure
But the
itself.
lower part, yeah. But they're usually up there pretty high. So,
Depends on how they
yeah, I mean,
design the
it's, I
cells.
don't think it's a problem. I'm just,
So where's the production of energy going? To be
well, I
used?
think at this point we're going to make some money on this.
Into the grid.
Yeah, it goes
Into the grid.
grid.
It's just straight into the grid.
yeah. What it does is reduce the town's electric bill.
Because you're putting it into the grid.
I think it-
Unfortunately, we don't get paid as much for what goes back into the grid as we pay for what comes out of the grid.
But it doesn't, the way it normally works is the town, it doesn't cost the town anything to put this up.
right.
It's done, whoever's doing it, whatever the company, it takes 100% of the cost.
So it'd be nice to have that information.
Is this
We're
the
supposed to
German
be
company?
discussing this.
Yeah.
Yes.
We don't have any
This is actually the
information
same
other than
This is the same company, actually.
The same
Joy
company.
check.
As the JCC. And they're also looking at Beecher, there's a solar panel plan up for the roof with raw solar, and then these guys are also looking at putting in a solar panel system like the JCC over the parking area.
So we're going to get a presentation next month then, is that what we're expecting?
I don't know if this is the
On
group that we're
this?
doing it, but also.
No,
nothing-
this is an
nothing.
824, so this is
Oh, wow.
something that you're
Yeah.
receiving tonight.
Right.
It came in and you have to give a report back to the Board of Selectmen within 35 days. This is just your opinion
Yeah.
as to whether or not
It's
it
just an opinion.
conforms with your town
I
plan.
understand, but I think, you know, an
824.
informed opinion is always the best opinion.
Yeah, only getting,
Probably on the
only
right.
getting this is.
Yeah, it's not
That's
sufficient.
all we were providing.
They can't give you more.
Is this visible to the street or to the neighbors?
Probably to the neighbors on this little turnaround road here, whatever that road is.
Yeah, but this really faces not so much residences. You know, if you can see this map, you know, the driveway that you see on the left is the driveway to the fields.
Right, which means that the neighbors here have a less attractive view, because they're gonna look at the back of the panels, because aren't they slanted up to face south?
I would presume that they're facing this way.
Right, which means that any of the neighbors over here are gonna be seeing the infrastructure underneath, which is really rather unattractive. If you've ever looked at it, I mean, it really.
You're a baseball field away from a neighbor there.
And the town owns, there's the lagoons up on this side. So there's a considerable amount of open space to this area, correct?
I mean, the closest residence here would be probably at the cul-de-sac at Eldersley.
So on this map, where's the cul-de-sac?
Isn't this
Is this
the
the cul-de-sac
cul-de-sac?
here?
No, that's a lagoon pond.
Oh, okay.
Where your thumb is
Yes.
about Eldersley.
Oh, you mean it's all the way up in the
Right.
top left corner?
Okay, so I have a bigger question, actually. I'm kind of curious. Aside from the neighbor seeing it, the reflection value of this thing.
I wouldn't have any information on that.
No,
I would
I
imagine
know
it
that.
would be high.
Yes, right. So the question is, what's it aiming at?
I can't answer that
So-
question.
So are we allowed to ask for a presentation? Or do we just have
Within 30
to
days,
say yay or nay to an 824?
You have to act within 35 days. So you would have to call a special meeting, which is not an issue, and we can ask them to have someone come and.
Is it
address your
35 days
October
from
5th is when the
now?
35 days.
No, 35 days from when they submit.
And they submitted,
Well, the letter is dated a different date than when I got it. So I'm assuming that the letter was prepared on the date,
September 2nd,
no,
August 13th.
August 13th.
August 13th. Wow.
So on August 12th, and the letter says that
There was a regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen.
and they ordered to make a formal request.
You know, it's hard to make a favorable recommendation on limited information. And so, even if the concept's correct, I think a lot of the questions being raised are appropriate, and we could use a little more information.
Alan, can you sit closer to the microphone, because I don't think they can pick it up, and I know people out there can't hear you. If you could speak up,
I can.
please.
move that towards you.
This microphone toward me.
Yes.
Okay, are we picking me up now? There you go. My suggestion is we need more information before we can make a favorable recommendation to the Board of Selectmen. And I think it's important. I'm not sure how we acquire that. I'm not sure if people are going to be available for a special meeting, but I do think that the concept of using solar energy makes a lot of sense. A little more detail might help us make a informed recommendation. How can we achieve that?
Google Earth. Here's where it's gonna go, and here's where the Eldersley is.
So,
It's actually pretty close.
we are lucky enough to have a Board of Selectmen member as our representative in presence here. So what do you think? Because obviously the 13th we can't actually do that. I mean, this is a bad month, obviously, for a number of reasons. And are we allowed to ask for an extension on this response?
You're certainly allowed to ask your liaison to bring to the Board of Selectmen meeting, which is now next week, next Wednesday, on the 16th, that I can request that the TP&Z Commission has requested for additional information and a presentation, if available, We have some more information. Certainly, I don't know what they sent over to you, but apparently not much. We have more than that, but I'm going to be honest with you, I couldn't give you all the answers to some of your questions. Some of those questions are some of our questions. I'm sure that they can provide much more information, and I can certainly ask the Board of Selectmen to send over all that we have and to offer up the opportunity for you to have a presentation made. And I certainly think it's within your, it's reasonable.
Request.
I do understand there's a timeline here, but I think it's reasonable and probably a good expectation that you really should get more information. Therefore, we get more information.
If we don't act within the 35 days.
It's automatic.
They can act without a report from you. It doesn't,
It's more of an
nothing negative
advisory.
to them.
Yeah, and even if we say no, they can still act.
And they
Correct.
can still overrule.
So,
But we'd like to have,
of course.
Seems to me they would want us to send
we
them
want to rise.
Yeah.
And clearly we need more information.
When is the construction of this supposed to begin?
Well, that, I think,
I don't think there's a business.
I don't think there's a set date yet. However, the short answer was that we were told they'd like to get going on it sooner than later. So you can take what you will out of that. But basically, I think this is something they would like to get going on it. There is some timelines for us because there are certain credits and some of these companies work with certain time frames that they need to get their project going.
Aren't there wells as part of the landfill?
There are.
And so how does this, I mean, it would be good to know how this impacts those wells, being able to access the wells more than
It's my understanding, but you know, it's limited to this much information, is that the reason for the non-penetration ground mount is to provide just exactly that, access to those monitoring wells.
Yeah, these things are, you can actually get to those things under the Wheaton Wells things there.
I believe that. But I still think it would be good to know where they are.
Hey, I'm there. Don't worry.
So,
I'm not disagreeing.
So they don't act like a magnifying glass and warm up the water beneath? One never knows.
This isn't near our snowmaking facility, is it?
We have a snowmaking facility.
For the
Snow-
Mount
snow just
Woodbridge-
melts
Mount
off of these.
Woodbridge. Okay, cool. So, Tony, that would be
the
awesome if
skier.
you could do that. And
For the skiing.
that's how we would want in the minutes that we put a request in to get a presentation. So,
I will say, you know, the last instruction is tomorrow I will make a call over to town and discuss if there's any way for you to get additional information that we have already in our possession to you immediately, that I don't even have to wait till next week, and then I'll bring it to the full board on next week.
all right. So, moving right along here. So we've work session no 1, no 2, because no 1. But I'm wondering if maybe you should put a name in there, because now the sheet comes out that says Woodbridge vacant. So
When is one of the meetings?
I don't know
I don't know exactly what the meeting is. The real problem, I mean,
West Rock will be in October, first Thursday, typically.
the real problem
And
is the
it's
time
here
to start.
at from 4 to 6.
It's an odd time to start a meeting.
Well, it's made for the people who work in the building. You know, who want to get home for dinner. So, it is kind of a problem. But it was, what's it actually supposed to be this Thursday? It is this Thursday. It is this Thursday.
10th,
Yeah. So I'm thinking maybe we can come up with someone's name to put in there, so it doesn't say vacant. Just put in Andy, because there's two, or pronoun. There's two nouns.
I've spelled the same word.
Al. All right, and so the next discussion is, I will actually go back, I will tell you for the next meeting, I will go back and at least look at the minutes that they send over to see if there's anything that I think that any of us would be interested in.
I actually did print the minutes from the last 2 meetings. It's voluminous.
Yes.
There's many things in it.
So I will tell you.
None of which affected the town of Woodbridge.
Well, one of the things to look for, and you probably did, I'm not suggesting you did, but obviously the obvious things are if it's within so many feet of our borders, so then they have to like talk about that.
Yes.
But I look at it because I want to know what other towns are doing that we're probably looking to do too, but they've already done it. So I'm kind of always curious about what, because it's always like we're reinventing the wheel. You know someone else has already done it. So. Awesome. So then the only other thing is the discussion of the marijuana regulations. So I'm going to assume, since it's been on Facebook, that it's public discussion. Is that a fair assumption? Can we assume that something that's been on Facebook is public discussion?
I don't know if that's standard.
Okay, let's take a poll. Do you think it's public discussion? You think it's been put out to the public already? If it's been on Facebook? Under the good, the bad, the ugly in Woodbridge?
I think technically yes. Okay. Even though it would only be accessible for those who are.
Yeah, I agree.
On Facebook.
I agree. What do you think? Pretty safe?
On Facebook, meaning it's on the town Facebook page?
No, not on the town Facebook page, but other things that talk about the town. Okay, I'm not going to go around the table. I'm just going to make an assumption that it's okay, because the fact of the matter is it's been discussed at other meetings. So they've come to Board of Selectmen, and I think they've gone. I know they've acted in development that somebody wants to open up a marijuana distribution. Is that what we're calling it?
Pharmacy.
A marijuana pharmacy in town. So that's
Dispensary is the word.
Dispensary?
Mm-hmm. All right. So all that's been on Facebook because people have taken a photograph and sent it to me. Okay. So I don't know whether everyone's on board with this. So we've had a lot of discussions about the marijuana regulations, but we also kind of talked about the fact that we all kind of looked at it as a pharmacy element, which is strictly controlled by the state and the feds, and so it's no different than a pharmacy. So, does anyone have an opinion on that?
Have we looked at what other towns that have dispensaries have done?
Earlier in the winter, I think it was.
We did.
Sent out draft
Right.
regulations from other towns that they had adopted, but then we didn't go forward with.
Well, we were looking at, actually somebody was suggesting, Peggy was suggesting we actually do a moratorium to actually
But then we also did.
not allow it, then we moved on from that, right. So.
I mean, as staff, I have fielded at least 3 phone calls regarding establishing a dispensary in town. And the question is, do we have a moratorium? The answer is no. I do say that, it's been discussed, but it hasn't gone forward at this point. Do we have regulations regulating them? I said none at this point. So I said you'd have to look at our regs and see if it fits into, our regulation structure.
It's my understanding that the State Department of Consumer Protection is sponsoring a competition for applications for dispensaries in the New Haven and Fairfield County area.
A competition?
Mm-hmm.
Well, everybody wants them.
And they're going to score.
They're only gonna let us
they're going to score each application, and it's all on their website.
So of the towns that have moratoriums, have you determined that a year or less is an appropriate time for moratoriums, or do you have any opinion on that?
I'm not an attorney, I don't play one.
What have you seen? What have you seen?
The information that I got on moratoriums, I forwarded to all of them.
Right, I saw.
And generally, as far as I know, moratoriums go from 6 months to a year. It's to enable time realistically for you to be able to adopt a regulation, which is the whole point of having a moratorium.
Because you can't just outlaw them.
Well, no, but the reason I'm bringing it up is obviously with what you're hearing and what staff has just said, and if we haven't really validly considered, the alternatives to it, we might want to. You could always act tonight and just put a brief moratorium on it so you don't have an app come in before we have a chance to consider it. So
applications are due by Friday, September 18th.
What I'm saying
So
is you
I'm
want to...
not actually a strong proponent of putting a moratorium on. I think that a marijuana dispensary is no different than a pharmacy.
I haven't come to that conclusion yet.
Well, I'm just telling you my
Interesting point of view.
conclusion. You obviously can go in the direction you want, I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, I got it.
It's probably has more controls over it than a pharmacy. I mean, it's unbelievable what type of controls are, so, which we all have reviewed, so.
Yeah, but the only problem I have is...
It's not a growing facility.
No, but the problem I have is, yes, based upon the current law, statute, and regulations, but if they change, then these, whatever comes into town will be grandfathered in because there were no regulations at the time. And that then could become a problem. Well, I mean, you know, be honest, Colorado started off as a, on the stricter side. And it ain't strict now.
No, but they do have rules. You can't put a marijuana store next to marijuana store next to marijuana store. There are some controls, but they also have a different law in Colorado about.
No, that's what I'm saying. But the law could change here.
Right.
And that's what concerns me. If you have no regulation and the law does change to become more liberal, then anything that's in here would have been grandfathered in because of the fact that, and would not be subject to any new regulation that was enacted after they were in here. And that's what concerns me. Not today. You know, not the regulations today or the statute today, which is extremely strict. I mean, you know, the limitation is fairly, the ability to get marijuana is fairly limited. Cancer, glaucoma, whatever.
But did you see what they're doing now in other states? This was a headline that I read today about the e-cigarettes.
Yes, I know that.
I mean, very unusual. Did you see this?
But that's got nothing
they're using
to do
marijuana.
with a marijuana dispensary.
No, absolutely.
E-cigarettes.
Nothing to do with a marijuana dispensary.
No, well, that could be the source of
which is the question of whether or not a regular...
No. One thing's got nothing to do with it.
No. I'm not talking about that.
Let's be really clear about that.
I'm talking about potential changes in the law to make it more legal, and whether or not we should have a regulation, or zoning regulation, now, as opposed to coming in later. That's all. That's the only thing that concerns me.
Well, if we don't put a moratorium on, an application comes in, we have absolutely no standards, whether it be near a school or...
It's retail.
So it would be whatever a pharmacy...
Same thing as a pharmacy. Drugs.
I'm not sure what our alternates are, what thoughts they might have. I mean, it's a protective device for the commission not to be caught in an awkward situation, that's all. Maybe it'll never happen, but I always get a little bit concerned when there's an opening, especially if there's a big competition going on. That's been stated here.
Well, the competition actually pretty much guarantees that if anyone's allowed to put a dispensary in Woodbridge, they'll only do one. They're not going to take 6 and say, let's put them all in Woodbridge. But the fact is, if it's a pharmacy, it's a pharmacy. It's not Colorado. It's not a dispensary like in Colorado. It's not even close. You can only go in there and get something if you can show you have a card that says this is the disease I have.
You might get some comfort in looking at the Department of Consumer Protection website about this, because there are lots of regulations on it.
One of the interesting things, as a little bit of an aside to the marijuana dispensary in Connecticut, they can only, which is why they're just starting up, is because they're not allowed to sell any marijuana unless it's grown in Connecticut. So it won't just say made in the USA, grown in Connecticut. It's kind of interesting. think that's what's happening to all those tobacco farms on the way to the airport.
Adaptive reuse? Adaptive reuse?
I thought we were going to get to use that wood on other buildings, but I suppose it probably should just stay for marijuana.
Locally grown, locally smoked.
Well, hopefully none of us need it. All right, so we're moving on here.
I'm registering my concern. I'm not sure if people want, I'm not sure it's fit for a formal motion. I mean, Kathleen, do you think you would be supportive of that idea of a brief moratorium while we try to work out what would be appropriate regulations?
Yeah, I'm not fully comfortable.
Yeah, we'd like to see the regulations.
So I'll make a motion for the sake of argument for a 6-month moratorium, which is pretty nominal, I would think, so that we can work on appropriate regulations. Maybe once a second, then let's do it. If you entertain that, Mr. Chairman.
So there's no second.
I'll second it.
Any more discussion?
Yeah, what does a 6-month moratorium mean, given that the deadline for current applications for dispensaries is September 18th? And the guidelines say if...
What about, okay, I'm sorry.
Well, and then it says that if your town's TP&Z doesn't yet have regulations for it, they'll take that into account. It doesn't mean a place wouldn't get it, but 6 months, a given application wouldn't be granted.
When are they giving out these things?
They're due by September 18th.
So, and we're going to put a moratorium on, so
It's another way of saying no.
I think chances are we're probably not going to, they're not going to pick Woodbridge.
Okay.
So, I guess that's what your economic development will be having.
We have a gun shop and a tattoo parlor, though, that were approved in the last year or two, so.
Yeah, well, I'm there. But not about this. I'm not. Actually, it's a little different. As an alternate, I think that there's a difference between having a dispensary that can only be used by people who have specific medical issues, and so for that reason, I think it's okay. It's a pharmacy, and what's going on in Colorado is above and beyond that, and so maybe it would make more sense to say, let's start looking at dealing with if the law changes and it's going to become like Colorado. That I could see a concern. That makes more sense to me. But right now, to just be having it being sold to a dozen different diseases that it's already been proven helps them, I think we should be a little hesitant about doing that. And I think that we can still answer your concerns by starting this process. But I don't think we have to have a moratorium on stopping basically a pharmacy opening up.
It doesn't make sense to me to have any regulations about an activity that's still illegal.
Right.
Why would you have regulations about that?
But you do. You have it with liquor stores. You have,
But that's not illegal.
No. It's not illegal, but you have definitely regulations in terms of where you can have it.
Right, but
in terms of how many feet, and so on and so forth. So just because something is legal doesn't mean you don't want to regulate it in certain ways.
I agree with that. What I'm saying is, but you don't want to anticipate a change in the law and have those regulations.
I'm not saying anticipate a change in the law, but correct me if I'm wrong. If somebody opens up a dispensary and the law changes and they can sell it any way they want, then you can make any zoning change you want, and they're not affected by it.
I'm not so sure about that. I think
Why not?
If the
pre-existing use.
But if the dispensary has opened under a law as existing that only allows for a narrow purpose of dispensing marijuana, and the legislature later changes that law and opens it up completely, I don't think we would be precluded from regulating the more expansive purpose.
Be interesting. I would take that side.
Isn't marijuana different from alcohol in that federally it's still illegal? Even though, right? And so that's a big difference. So I guess, Jeff, I just don't see it as straightforward as it's just a pharmacy, but the only drug it's distributing is marijuana. So I just would like a little more time to think about it and read the information that's out there.
You know, the only reason we put 6 months on it, that's an outside date. We're actually able to deal with it earlier than that. We can certainly decide to do that. And so the purpose of the regulation, though, is, as Alan said, to deal with legalities, which are dealing with placement, you're dealing with nearby activities, with churches and, whatever. And I don't know that we really thought it through. So, the generic idea right now that's existing is that look at our regulations. If you think it fits, put in the application, and they can make a zoning enforcement decision as to whether or not it fits.
Well, again, we can probably talk about this for a long time, but zoning commission in town Woodbridge has made regulations to keep certain facilities away from kids and schools and teen centers, and have gone back and changed them. So right now you can put liquor next to a church, next to a teen center. So it's and to be honest with you, that's way more serious than marijuana that only can be distributed if you have a card that says you have a specific disease. So our track record isn't great on that. But again, I mean, everybody has to be comfortable and vote the way they want to vote.
I guess there's a motion in a second if you want to call it and vote on it. Let's see what happens 6 months.
So is there any more discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
And we need an alternate to vote.
3 to 2.
Who has to vote? That's what we're
The first alternate up to vote, bear with me for seconds, is Andrew Peltz.
Pressure.
Pressure.
Can I ask a question? Of course. So, and it seems like location is one of the big, if not biggest, concerns. So, where, to take your pharmacy analogy, where can pharmacies currently open? Like CVS couldn't open up shop next to Beecher or next to Amity High School,
That's
right?
correct.
So it's really just in the the downtown
Retail,
right?
Commercial area.
Right. So I feel like the concern over opening shop next to a school is sort of out the window. I guess there's a teen center down there. Just trying to weigh the.
Well, but we serve liquor next door to the teen center. We had a brewery across the street from the teen center.
There's the Montessori school that's down on Litchfield Turnpike. There are several churches, some of them are actually instructional.
None of the kids drive to Montessori.
But when they did the liquor regulations, that was one of the places that you distanced from was the Montessori school, because that's why.
And you can serve liquor. You can open up an establishment that serves liquor next to a church. That was a really big deal, and then suddenly it wasn't.
People need a license to go in and buy alcohol or some sort of ID to get alcohol, and it still gets into the hands of people who shouldn't have it. So just because people have a card to get marijuana doesn't mean it's not going to get in the hands of people who shouldn't have it, who don't have the medical card.
But that doesn't matter where it is.
True, but it's a factor in even permitting it, in my mind.
So your choices are to vote in favor, to vote against, or to abstain. If you choose to abstain, it counts as an affirmative vote, even though you haven't affirmatively voted. If you vote against it, then it's 3-3, and it doesn't have a majority, so it fails. And obviously, if you vote in
If
favor
you vote against it, it's got it, yeah.
And then if you vote in favor of it, then it carries. So if you abstain or if you vote in favor of it, it carries. If you vote against it, then it dies.
Pressure.
That's
Don't overthink this. Seriously, it's just plenty of zoning. Seriously.
All right, I'm going to vote no against the moratorium.
So having said that, I would strongly encourage, if you think there needs to be more regulations, that you start planning ahead a little bit in case Connecticut is going to be Colorado.
Would you like the package resent?
If it's an email.
That's what I emailed you.
Was before.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, it's not killing more trees.
It might just help you to refresh.
Sure. Thank you.
All right, we have a letter. Is a letter in here? Because let me give you a little.
Yes, it was in the stuff we brought today.
Okay, so I don't know where it is. Okay, so let me give you an update on the planning
It's
situation.
an original one. It's an original one.
So just so everybody knows, this is just to like update everybody what's going on here. So I did. This is a great idea, but so obviously I think we should take them up on it. It is different than what we were looking for in the planner, but I think that it's a good segue and partnership with the planner that we're talking about engaging. I mean, that person's jobs. But so a quick update. So I did actually. I met with. I've been given permission to discuss this in public. So I did meet with Leslie. I think Andy's Andy, but I don't know. But you know what Leslie is. Leslie came, spoke to us.
Town planner.
Remember? Mm. Okay, fine. And I told her, and she's looked at our POCD, and she was asking, we only have a certain amount of money, obviously, so it's not like we're going to get it. Not that we necessarily need a full-time planner, but the thing is to take those funds and put it towards the most important, or what we think are priorities out of the POCD. And so both of us thought that I'm going to use the word flats, but in a very positive way. I know there are some people in the flats who don't think it's positive to call it flats, but I do. So I just want to make that clear. And we seem to be making probably a good percentage of our recommendations in the POCD referring to that area. And also going to our discussion about where convenience stores can be put and where they can't, and the number of different commercial zones that are down there seems to be fairly confusing. So we were both on the idea that that would be the best place to put her resources. And she has to come back with a proposal that'll come before us that we can all look at. But I'm open for
question. Is this on a project basis, or is this a permanent part-time position?
In this town, it's gray area, to say the least. But we've been allocated so much money in our budget. We requested money. I think we have about $10,000 or $15,000. I'm not really sure exactly what the number is. And the idea was that we can do it as a project basis, or we can just have this person start looking through our regulations. When I saw the amount of money, because we had actually requested more, I thought that we should probably really try to pick a project that we want to see accomplished.
That's what I.
So that's where we're going with that. So that's pretty much my discussions with her. I don't know what anyone's feeling. She does have to put together a proposal for us on that area, which will come before us sooner rather than later. I don't know if anybody has any thoughts.
No, I think that area is perfect there. You know, it's perfect for a project. This is all mixed up anyway.
And this also, and this is a lot of what this Yukon, their focus is on the West River watershed, and that's where all this is too. So that would be kind of nice to tie all that together.
And the cost with the Yukon?
No.
This is
no
free.
cost. Right.
This area was chosen as a sample area to try.
It's a demonstration.
So they are providing or offering these services to, I guess, the town, city of New Haven, to the town of Woodbridge, and to the town of Bethany. So it's at no cost. There is a time frame. I believe it's December that they need to get things finished by. So they would be coming in, looking at the regs, and making their suggestions.
Mr. Chairman, would you have the part-time planner or the project-based planner and Claire work on the same issue?
Well, actually, the same area I'm thinking, because it is all the same area.
Okay.
So that's what I'm thinking. I'm not thinking the same.
Is it a little distracting, perhaps, to have two outfits working in the same area?
I don't think so. I think it's awesome that we're going to have more than one person working. I mean, I think it's great, and I'm like actually, I mean, the other reason I really like that project area is I think that that area had there was a lot of concern from that whole part of town, thinking that what we were doing is negative, and we all pretty much agreed that it was mostly because people don't know exactly what's going to happen. So that's why I think that area is really important. I think it has the most potential for really being great for this town and that area. I mean,
they're very stable neighborhoods, but very critical infrastructure.
Absolutely, and they have traffic issues, and I mean, I think that I would much rather be more concerned about that area than worried about something on the other side of town, which isn't going to really change. So,
and I think
that was the idea.
What Yukon is actually looking at is more of the development practices rather than the types of development. So, if you construct, you know, how do you handle it for a low impact development that way, and how do you handle your stormwater runoff and whatnot?
Exactly.
In the town of Woodbridge, the West River has, if you want to put it, the lowest water quality in that portion. It's graded from A and down, and that portion of the West River has been B. And so what they want to do is bring the quality of that up, while also looking at, you know, protecting those houses which in an earlier era were built in what is now identified as a floodplain.
Right.
So,
yeah. No, I think it would be a great team.
One of the things that they also offer here is coming to town to do education to you on you know, how to read plans and all that other good stuff, and they can do that. They used to have you go all the way to East Haddam to do this, but now they're branching out and coming here. Their requirement is that they have a minimum of 15 people. So as staff, we were hoping that between, you know, your board or commission, the Inland Wetlands Commission, and we can look at like conservation or whoever else, we can also draw in potentially from Bethany, you know, to get that 15. But it would be, especially for, those of you who are new, the ability to, you know, get some information and get it locally rather than have to travel, because we all know that you guys are working and it's hard to go out.
Well, and I would also like to see the people that live in those neighborhoods who will probably want to come to this too, because I mean, these are all concerns down there.
But this is training for you on how to read plans. It's separate from the regulation kind of thing. This is the land use training that they offer, how to look at a site plan and how to read a site plan. It's not really intended for the average citizen. It's intended for land use boards and commissions.
But it is open to the public.
Any meeting that we have is open to the public.
All right, cool. Well, I think it would
So.
I get what you're saying. I'd still like, it'd be great if anybody down there is interested to come. So, here.
That's fine.
No, I know. I understand.
I'm just trying to get input from you guys so that if you're interested in doing that,
yes, absolutely.
we can approach inland wetlands and see if we can come up with, 15 people, and then I just need kind of dates to work with from them and from you to get everybody here interested.
How long does the program that they put on last? Do you know?
I'm honestly not sure, but I will find out.
I promise you won't start at 4:30.
Yeah.
Excuse me?
I promise you won't start at 4:30.
Well, you want 15 people.
I will get you more information.
Well, in other words, does it have to be on the weekend?
No.
As opposed to in the evening?
Evening, yeah.
I just don't know how long it lasts.
We'll get a concrete proposal from them.
I will get that information and get it out.
Excellent. All right. Awesome. Okay, we have approval of minutes for September 8th. Let's see. Let me go back here. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, exactly. The first one is July 7th. Is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Those are the short ones, right?
Who's second? Oh, Kathleen?
Oh, I'll second. I was wondering which ones they were. I had to verify. Sure, I'll second. I read it. They look-
Discussion? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
There you go.
Motion to approve July 27th.
Well,
Wait, let me just make sure.
I'm pretty sure that I didn't vote no on the Ginger Nash application. It says opposed. I didn't necessarily like how close it was to the road, but I don't think I voted against it.
Yeah, I don't think anybody voted against it.
Right, but it says opposed in the minutes.
Also, someone sat in for me on that. It's not mentioned in the minutes.
Okay.
So then, as amended, motion to approve.
Second.
This is for the 27th. We're going to make the corrections on the other one. Okay. You have to vote on that again since we voted before we got the comments. Is that okay?
No, we didn't vote
on that one. You voted on the
27th.
13th.
Oh, I'm sorry. So this is the 27th.
This is the 27th.
I was, and I couldn't find on the 7th. It says Ginger Nash. I'm like, oh, I got cut off because it doesn't have a vote. But anyway, okay, to answer that question. All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? I think that's it. Right?
With Clear, do you want them, I don't know how they approach it, if they come to it.
Who's
like
them?
You,
Oh.
guys, regarding the regulations and working on your regulations, do you want me to ask them if they would come to your regular meeting in October to go over with you what they would propose to do, so there would be a clear dialogue between the commission and them?
Yukon?
Yes. Or I can ask them
That'd be
how
great.
they process that.
That'd be great. And then also, if we get the approval on the other person, that could all work together.
And I'll look on the dates for training and coordinate with you. That'll work.
How long is this training? Did we already ask that question?
We did. We don't have an answer.
We're gonna find that out.
The only thing I remember is it won't start at 4:30.
I think
No 4:30
they
starts.
come and do it as an evening training for you, so.
Okay.
But I will verify that.
Some of us might know how to read these things already. So. Okay. Cool. All right. Anything else?
Yeah, motion to adjourn.
There you go. Second? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? There you go.